believe us. The tales we could tell. Though, truth be told, it started very poorly.
The blood runs cold. We take our look but don't get old.
I was one, but now we are many. We all agree on one thing. To sail the coast. Hunt down those lizard trinkets. And we will find them. We will put ourselves back together. Fortune favors the infamous.
You best start believing in ghost stories, my pretties. You're in one. The Vampire Coast has arrived and will be dropping officially on November 8th. And I think very few of us would have expected them in the next major content released 3 or 4 months ago. I know I didn't. I thought Dogs of War was a sure bet, but here we are. Vampire Coast is coming. Very exciting, yet strange to see an undead pirate navy getting fully fleshed out in a game without naval battles. But I imagine CA might be doing something to remedy that, at least on some level. So grab some rum, and let's dive right in and discuss Curse of the Vampire Coast, their lore, their new mechanics, legendary lords, and as always, their unit roster. Some of these things have not been fully revealed yet, so there will be a little bit of speculation here as well, but I think we can make some pretty good guesses based on the trailer about what's going to be included. So first thing is first, who the hell are the Vampire Coast? Well, they're the insanely over-the-top version of undead you might expect to see in something like Curse of the Black Pearl. Zombie pirates, zombie crabs, rotting whales, and a whole bunch of other crazy stuff that have carved out a small empire for themselves on the eastern coast of Lustria. It all started when Luthor Harkon, a vampire sired in ancient Lamia by your boy Aberash himself, set sail for the New World in a coffin, and was attacked by a bunch of Norsekin marauders on longships. He didn't take very kindly to that, turned them into zombies, and started building an army for himself from the bloated, swollen corpses of doomed sailors who shipwrecked on the coast. And with that army, he expanded his territory, which inevitably brought him into contact and conflict with the Lizardmen, and he started taking a liking to Olin's artifacts, which, as you might imagine, granted a lot of power if handled correctly, but unfortunately, he didn't, because he's not that smart, and they were a bit too powerful for him. One of them shattered his mind completely into a dozen personalities, which quickly battled for control of his sanity. And all that is referenced in the trailer, and Luthor Harkon becomes this raving mad lunatic, a perpetual but slightly irrelevant thorn in the side of the Lizardmen, whenever he could actually get his head out of his ass long enough to lead an invasion. So this campaign is going to be based around Lustria, at least for Luthor Harkon's brood, but remember this is a campaign pack, so there will be 4 legendary lords. But what are we getting in this DLC? What kind of content can we expect going forward? Well, there's a new school of magic, the Lore of the Deep, unique upgradable ships for each legendary lord that will function as mobile recruitment centers, 8 new regiments of renown, pirate coves, new battle types, new tech trees, and new mechanics overall. But let's talk about the unit roster first, because this is the part that usually has people the most excited, and what actually hasn't been announced yet, but we can still make a lot of good guesses about what's actually going to be included based on the trailer alone. They haven't officially unveiled the full unit roster to the best of my knowledge anywhere, not on IGN, not on any of the big gaming sites, not even in their blog or on the Steam page, but we saw a lot of crazy stuff in the trailer, much of which was only ever referenced in supplements and like far-flung pieces of mostly forgotten lore. Horrific constructs, vast undersea beasts, ghoulish revenants, and pirate hordes. It all makes for some really flashy content, and without question, I think it's going to be very exciting to get our hands on. So, we saw the Queen Bess, which is available through the Curse of the Queen's cannon, right? It's this vast, jerry-rigged cannon which fires colossal cannonballs in a high parabolic arc, kind of like a mortar, and it deals tremendous damage in an area of effect to any unit that's nearby, and also slows them down as well, as they're kind of hit by the shockwave and taken over from there. And it was stolen from an Empire siege ship called a Hellhammer, and converted to something more suitable for land warfare. So that is going to be an incredible artillery piece, do a ton of damage. I don't know if it's going to be good in multiplayer, but it's certainly going to be a lot of fun to use, especially in campaign. And we also saw some other stuff, like the Mornghuls and the Necrofix Colossus, both which are from the Monstrous Arcanum supplement, and that's the exact same book that we got Skin Wolves and Fimir, actually. Both of those additions are going to be pretty amazing, just very flavorful additions to the game. Now, Mornghuls are these long, skinny, starving terrors that are basically the Wendigos of the Warhammer world. Desperate abominations, neither living nor dead, with a freezing aura, the ability to stalk unseen through the shadows, and regeneration. Might end up being feral as well. And the Necrofix Colossus is this giant, reanimated mound of flesh and rotten wood that combines siege weaponry, the carcasses of ships, and the carcasses of the dead into one hell of a spectacular centerpiece monster. Cannons or other crazy weaponry can be strapped to its arms, and zombies are literally sewn into the spot where its head should be, and given a soul and rudimentary sentience through dark magic. Gonna function a lot like a Hydro Titan, I think, able to put out some damage from range, then wade into melee and stomp stuff into oblivion. We saw Sirens, kind of a unit of banshees, ethereal souls that lure ships to their doom, and bloated corpses who function as a living bomb, meant to run towards an enemy and explode upon impact with a formation, raining the defenders and guts and noxious gases and whatever else is kind of held in their gross, nasty intestines. The gunnery mob carry literal hand cannons. The deck droppers are fell bats that drop zombies on their enemies, and the Prometheans are gigantic sea crabs who can shatter infantry formations with their charge and their rending claws. We might see a feral version of those, and then maybe a more elite version as monstrous cavalry with undead riders. And in addition, there look like there might be some animated hulks, which are undead ogres who have been twisted and mutated by necromancy and the spirits of the sea, and turned into a combination of crab and monster. So the first chance we've gotten to see ogres in any official capacity. So you won't really be able to recognize them very well. They're very bloated and have those crab claws, but very cool stuff there too. So look, there's a lot going on here. CA is obviously going balls deep in terms of fleshing them out on the battlefield, and the roster itself has me very excited. They took everything I expected to see and added more, and I imagine we're going to hear even more about them soon too. Would not be surprised in the slightest to see something like the Rotten Leviathan or some form of Kraken, which are these undead predatory whales or huge monstrous octopus, squid, that kind of thing. All of those are referenced in Vampire Coast Lore, but I guess the question is, how do you best translate those to land warfare? And that will definitely be an interesting one for CA to solve if they decide to. Now, in terms of new campaign features and mechanics, your main objective is to find the Great Merworm Amanar, who has been awoken by the Great Vortex in the race for it between Skaven, Dark Elves, High Elves, and Lizardmen. The Merworm is actually a unit that we first saw, I believe, in the Monstrous Arcanum, a sea creature kind of a mix between a dragon and a snake, and one of the most ancient species on the planet. Amanar, which is the name of this particular Merworm, the one we saw at the end of the trailer, terrorizes the sea lanes, summoning vast storms and attacking coastal ports on a whim. Only one who wields the Star Metal Harpoon will be able to tame the beast, and become immune to its ravenous hungers. But we gotta find the damn thing first, and the only way it's given any power whatsoever is if we basically chant out 3 verses of a secret ancient sea shanty. So your job is to find the harpoon and control the beast at the end of the campaign, but the only way to do so is by growing in reputation by defeating the other pirate captains and expanding your territory. If you beat them in battle, you'll learn the missing verses of the shanty that will empower the harpoon and allow you to fight the beast and bend it to your will. So it sounds like we might actually be getting a huge boss battle at the climax of your campaign, which would be incredibly epic. Not sure we've ever seen an NPC unit boss fight in a Total War game before, but then again, it's always possible CA will make more worms a playable unit in and of themselves. I'm kind of leaning towards something like the Norskin mammoth hunts and those kind of things, though. It might be something like that, where you just fight this huge monster and try to bring it down as a couple of other units get thrown your way. Now, the infamy level you accrue by doing pirate things will allow you to establish pirate coves, which grant you economic boosts and are these secret sub-settlements built within port cities that will likely have battle maps of their own. There's a lot CA can do there from a visual perspective, so I'll be very excited to see what they're able to accomplish. But Legendary Lords will also have their unique ships, which is very true to Dreadfleet if you know anything about that tabletop version of the Sea Battles. Each of those famous characters each have their own ship that has a lot of lore behind it. So we'll be seeing those, although not in unofficial naval battle capacity, and they will function like naval hordes. So you'll be able to move around as this mobile settlement on the high seas with many powerful upgrades for the Lord and his army. But you can still occupy normal settlements, so it's going to be kind of a blend of the best things about traditional Total War gameplay and Horde gameplay, except this time the Horde will be on the sea, so it's combining both, and we've seen that a lot with more recent DLC races. There are also new battle maps coming, island territories, which are obviously a very welcome addition. I do feel honestly really bad for the GCCM guys, because they put a ton of work into their mod, and it just came out like a couple days before this DLC got announced, but hopefully their stuff will still be able to be integrated into the normal campaign, at least in a modded capacity. But there's a lot of big news here, right? They are not introducing naval battles, which isn't really a surprise. In their blog post, Grace basically said it's a vast undertaking that would be way beyond the scope of a DLC pack, which is honestly kind of fair. Like, if CA were really going to do justice to naval battles, and we've talked about this before, with dwarf ironclads and Norskin longships and floating turtles and sea monsters like Kraken and Leviathans and Black Arcs, and all these gigantic floating fortresses that are way bigger than even like aircraft carriers in our world, and have them function well in terms of a naval combat and magic and all these other mechanics, it could easily be its own game. So maybe we'll see a full naval battles expansion at some point later down the road, maybe after the whole trilogy is out, but it's not realistically something that could be added in like a $15 or $20 DLC alongside a full new race and new campaign mechanics, so I get why they didn't there. But believe me, I want it as much as you guys. It will be a great addition to the game if it ever makes it in, but I can understand the frustration on both sides there. There's a lot that could be done with these island battles though. For now, when two armies meet in battle at sea, you can choose to auto-resolve as usual or fight the battle on land. And hopefully that means that we actually get to see our respective factions' navies in the background. I don't know if that means you'll be able to see stuff like dwarf ironclads in the back if you're fighting a naval battle, quote-unquote naval battle with dwarfs. Not sure exactly how it's going to work yet, but if you choose to fight on land, both armies will disembark from their ships and fight on a nearby island. That means that you're going to have full control of your full land-based capabilities, your full army, and under your full control. And the same is true of Black Arcs as well. When attacking or defending a Black Arc at sea, a land battle will be fought on the vast rocky slopes and ledges of the Black Arc itself, surrounded by towering Dark Elf architecture, which is a really good change. Exactly what I think should have been there from day one on launch day. Would have made Black Arcs such a cooler mechanic if you could actually fight on them before, but that's definitely a big fix here, and certainly a possible hint that Lokir Felheart, the Kraken Lord, might be the Dark Elf free LC coming with this update, rather than Malice Darkblade. It would certainly fit the pirate theme of everything that's going on. But they go on to give a shout out to the modding team that made the island battles fix in the first place, and yeah, they talk a little bit about that. But moving on, in addition to everything we've talked about so far, the Regiments of Renown will be tied up by 8 pieces of 8. They're going to be part of this unique gold doubloon mechanic that will grant access to each of them once you've defeated their guardian armies hidden throughout the map. And treasure maps will give you location of money and powerful items if you can solve their riddles. So again, not sure exactly how that will work, but sounds like you'll be able to figure out exactly where all these powerful items are hidden throughout if you can figure out what's going on and know a little bit about the lore. So that might be a very interactive way to get people encouraged to learn more about the universe, learn more about the lore. Now, the new rights include the Queen Bess, as we already mentioned, and Curse of the Sea Mist, which will drown the land in a spooky, scary fog and give Vanguard deployment to all your monster units while causing attrition to enemies, kind of like the Sandstorm right that we already have for the Tomb Kings, and that leaves Legendary Lords. So this is a big one. This is one that we definitely need to talk a lot about, because it's actually what we know the least about. So, Arch Grand Commodore Luthor Harkon is the only one confirmed. But the second is going to be very obvious. Count Noctilus, captain of the stupidly large Bloody Reaver and master of the Dreadfleet, one of the most famous naval characters in the setting. Noctilus is actually a von Karstein who makes his home in the Galleon's graveyard. This is a mystical realm that absorbs shipwrecks from all over the planet with the maelstrom that's at its center, and it's actually this kind of ethereal world that exists within a world. And from there, his Dreadfleet will sail out and plunder the coasts and seas of the New World. But with Count Noctilus being added, that still leaves 2 Legendary Lords unaccounted for. Strictly Vampire Coast characters include Captain Dracula, the right hand of Luthor Harkon, and Vangeist, who's this ethereal pirate captain who rides a ghost ship named the Shade Wraith. I actually had never heard of him until a couple weeks ago when I did the Minor Faction DLC video. But other possibilities include Aranessa Saltspite, who's a pirate queen who's amongst the most feared in all of Sartosa, who captains the Swordfish, and she has quite a decent bit more lore than either Dracula or Vangeist, and kind of break up the sausage fest, so I think she has a decent shot at making it in. And Jago Roth, the founder of the Grand Alliance, who opposes the Dreadfleet and will stop at nothing to get his vengeance against Count Noctilus for killing his family. He captains the Helden Hammer, stolen from the Grand Theogenist Volkmar the Grim. So, they're obviously huge rivals. Noctilus and Jago Roth are huge rivals. You might think, oh, that doesn't make sense to add them in a DLC together, but we already have a very similar thing with Arkhan the Black and Cetra, so that could totally happen. I think it would make a lot of sense with the rivalries that are happening between them, and one of the main focuses of the DLC seems like that rivalry between pirate lords, so it would actually make a lot of sense to contrast the vampire characters with their hated mortal rivals. But honestly, they're such minor characters that CA can do anything they want with them that they want, really. I mean, it wouldn't be hard to give them the Blood Kiss or make them connected to the Vampire Coast in a more tangible way. So let me know what you guys think about that. Would you like to see human lords to contrast with the 2 vampires, or would you like whoever fills those last 2 slots to be strictly vampire related? So, in addition to everything else, it looks like we will also be getting an overhaul of the vampire counts themselves. The old world race probably least in need of a rework, but that in and of itself is actually a very good sign, I think. Some people might say, oh my god, the vampires have gotten so much love already, they already have the most legendary lords, why are they getting more love? Why are they getting more stuff? Well, I think it's a good thing, because it means CA is dedicated to returning to each of the Game 1 races and figuring out ways to make them even cooler. They know that people love the Empire, they know that people love the Greenskins, they aren't forgoing those people, I really don't think. I'm pretty sure, either in Game 2 or Game 3, they're gonna go back and fix those races up as well. Give them new star positions, give them new mechanics, make them a lot more interesting, because they need it, and I think CA knows that. And it's just good news for those other factions as well. Might even be good news for the Beastmen and the Wood Elves, who, I mean, Beastmen definitely need an overwork for their mechanics and their campaign. Like, that needs serious working. Wood Elves are in a better spot, but stuff like their Amber and some of their unit roster and stuff like that still needs a little bit of love and maybe an extra legendary lord, because Wood Elves only have 2. So, there's a lot of that stuff to think about as well. But, without question, there is something strange about creating a minor faction that's most famous in Dreadfleet, which is a purely naval-based tabletop game, in a game without naval battles, right? Like, they're going Vampire Coast in a game without naval battles. But it looks like CA is at least taking some steps to actually address that. Their army roster looks incredibly cool, and there are definitely some interesting legendary lords that they could use to pull into those last 2 lord slots. Count Noctilus and Luthor Harkon are awesome, so I'm glad to see that they'll be making it in. Obviously, Noctilus isn't confirmed yet, but he's incredibly likely. I'd say like 99.999% chance. Other 2 are much more up in the air. And obviously a lot of crazy mechanics coming too. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you all in the next video. Drink up, me hearties, yo ho, and really bad eggs.